This video is designed to help small to medium-sized enterprises understand the Consumer Guarantees Act and why it is important to know. In New Zealand, the CGA applies to any consumer that acquires goods or services from a business and trade. Consumers are guaranteed rights to both new and second-hand goods. The CGA also applies to businesses providing consumer products and services, such as tradespeople, importers, and retailers. A consumer is someone who acquires goods or services from a supplier of a kind ordinarily acquired for personal, domestic, or household use or consumption. In the sense of acquiring, it means they obtain by way of gift, purchase, or exchange, as well as taking on a lease, hire, and purchase. However, it is important to know that a consumer does not include purchasers who resupply in trade, consume in the course of production, or manufacture and use to repair other goods or fixtures on land. Under the Consumers Guarantee Act, there are a few important guarantees regarding the supply of goods that the consumer should be aware of and are entitled to. Goods supplied to the consumer must be of an acceptable quality and fit for the purpose in which they are commonly supplied for. They must also be acceptable in appearance, finish, and be free of minor defects. The goods must also be safe and durable for the purpose that they are ordinarily used for. However, it is not regarded as a breach of acceptable quality if the consumer is told of the defects before the goods are supplied, or if the goods are consumed in a way that a reasonable customer would not use it. Goods must also be fit to serve a particular purpose, comply with the description they are supplied under, and must comply with the sample or demonstration model if this applies. Goods supplied must also have repairs or spare parts available, and the manufacturer must honor any express guarantees or warranties for that product. When contracting out of the CGA, this becomes a breach of the Fair Trading Act, with the only exception being business-to-business transactions. When businesses decide to have no rights under the CGA, they must both ensure that there is written agreement stating that the CGA does not apply to their transaction. Both parties must also be in trade and regularly involved in the buying and selling of those goods or services. The terms of the agreement to contract out of the CGA must also be fair and reasonable, with an element of negotiation between parties. Because contracting out of the CGA is a breach of the FTA in transactions between suppliers and consumers, heavy penalties are imposed on both parties to ensure that correct procedures are adhered to. If you are unsatisfied by the product or service that you receive, under the Consumers Guarantee Act, you have right to certain remedies. Remedies to faulty goods or unsatisfactory service are dependent on the situation. If the problem is minor, the retailer can choose to repair, replace, or refund the product price. But if the problem cannot be resolved within a reasonable time frame or is of substantial character, then you may reject the goods and ask for a replacement or a refund. When you have the rights to reject the goods, sellers cannot just offer credit. If you want a refund, you're entitled to it by cash, check, or credit card charge reversal. If the retailer is refusing to fix a faulty product or fails to do so within a reasonable time, you can have it repaired elsewhere and recover the cost from the retailer. These replacement goods are still subject under the Consumers Guarantee Act. If a product is a failure of substantial character, it means that the goods would not have been bought by a reasonable consumer if they'd been aware of the failure, the product does not match the description, the product is unfit for the purpose that it is commonly used for, or is unsafe. Services are different because you cannot return them. If the service is faulty or incomplete, you must give the trader who did the job an opportunity to fix the problem for free. This should be done at no cost to you. If they fail to fix the issue, you can cancel the contract and get somebody else to fix it and get the original trader to cover the cost. For example, if a hairdresser fails to deliver what the client wanted, they are obliged to try and fix the problem for free. Failing that, the consumer can get another salon to fix it and claim the cost from the first hairdresser. The consumer may obtain damages from the supplier for any loss or damage to the consumer resulting from the failure, known as consequential loss. The loss must be reasonably foreseeable and liable to result from the failure. For example, you buy a heater and it catches fire. As a result, there could be consequential damages to your house caused by the faulty and unsafe heater. This is a foreseeable loss, and therefore the retailer would be responsible for the cost of the damages. If a business's practices do not comply with the CGA, there are consequences that business must face. When selling a service, they must be done with a reasonable level of skill and care, fit for the purpose that you and the consumer agreed upon, cost a reasonable amount, and take a reasonable amount of time if it wasn't agreed upon beforehand. When selling a good, it must be of reasonable quality. If any of these are breached, a consumer may claim compensation and a penalty is thus given to the business. The seriousness of the penalty largely depends on the seriousness of the fault in the good or service. Something small like a courier damaging your parcel can result in repair or replacement. If it's something big like a heater exploding, then more foreseeable damages will be compensated for. Larger damages like wall paint flaking can lead to the job being redone and the service being refunded. For goods, it's the same principle. To avoid these penalties, a business can train their employees not to breach the CGA. For example, the company should not be telling its employees to tell consumers to contact the manufacturer if a consumer brings in a faulty good that the company sold to the consumer. Both manufacturer and supplier are liable for faults, or in technical terms, when the good fails to meet the guarantee of acceptable quality as per Section 6 and 7 of the CGA.